Well, the interesting thing, Dwight, is how popular these races are becoming as guys now want to turn 40 years old to get the opportunity to run in these races. And I tell you, Runner's World Magazine, who puts on these races, goes out and they sort of put the call out, say, anybody who thinks they're good enough, give us a call. We want to invite you to the race. And that's how they've discovered some of these guys, some of whom were not good runners during their regular collegiate careers. They've found that they are better now that they're older.
Of course, the big goal now, who will be the first 40-year-old, the first master to break 4 minutes in the mile, and everyone seems to think that it's going to be John Walker of New Zealand, but Rod Dixon says, hey, I think that I could beat Walker to that goal.
We thought he could do it last year when he just turned 40, and he trained for it. He was all ready for an attempt. He's going to try to break it on the Oxford track where Roger Bannister ran the first sub-4-minute mile, but he got the flu, a virus he was telling us about. It said it really knocked him out for 6 months. This is his first race back.
Ken Sparks leading right now. He's the oldest man in the field. He's the only man his age to break 4:20 for the mile. He's followed by Byron Dyce, and in third is Ken Popejoy, who is the coach of a man we'll be seeing running the 3,000 meters, Jim Spivey, and Rod Dixon moving up on the inside in fourth currently.
64 seconds at the quarter, so they're not far off that world record pace. And I'll tell you, Ken Popejoy has a great attitude. Just turned 40 in December. He trains with Jim Spivey. Not only does he coach him, he says, you know, you can't aim for that world record, 4:15. You can't aim for that and train for that by running 64-second quarters. He said, I'm training with a guy who can run a 3:50 mile. I'm running sub-4-minute kinds of workouts. And he says, that's the way the sub-4-minute mile will be broken ultimately by a guy who's over 40.
Popejoy passing on the inside and taking over the lead from Ken Sparks. Rod Dixon up for third right now. Byron Dyce in fourth place. And Ken Popejoy says, hey, I want to push the pace a little bit.
Dave Stewart now moving up, and Popejoy has a really interesting philosophy. He says age and aging are not the same. It's a different thing. He says, hey, there's some old people who aren't very mature. Well, there's some old people who aren't really old. He says, I'm feeling better than I ever felt. Back in the 70s, he was a sub-4-minute miler, a guy who ran very well in college, but he says, hey, I've never been away from the sport, and I'm going to get better as I get to age 40.
As he was preparing for the Sunkiss meet a few years ago, he took a shirt out of his bag that was tattered and torn and bleached holes, and he says, Dwight, you remember this shirt? And it was a shirt from the 1972 Olympic trials in Eugene, Oregon. And I said, yes, I do. I was a very young man then. I said, but I do remember that extremely well.
Popejoy now holding on to first. It was 2:10 at the half, and he told me he doesn't want to let it fool around. He says, I can win with a big kick. I'm running 49-second quarters in practice, but I don't want to let it come down to that. I want it to be an honest race, and that's why he has taken the lead. A guy, by the way, who is a partner in a 4-man law firm. He coaches Jim Spivey, been coaching for 9 years at North Central College, so a guy who keeps himself busy.
Look who's moved himself into third place, Wilson Waigwa. He was always a wily runner back in college, and in his world-class days, a 350-miler back in the late 70s, early 80s, and he's in third. Ken Popejoy still holding on to the lead. Rod Dixon in second, looking as though he may be laboring a little bit. You can never tell with Rod. And Wilson Waigwa looking very comfortable in third.
3:14 at the three-quarter mile, so Popejoy really did pick the pace up. And I tell you, keep your eye on Stewart, who's in fourth. He has a good finish, and now Waigwa into the lead.
Stewart in fourth is the world indoor record holder. And Dixon is going to go with Waigwa. Waigwa starting his sprint from quite a ways out. They've dropped Popejoy. Dave Stewart in fourth looks as though he may move into third, but the race now is going to be all between Wilson Waigwa of Kenya and Rod Dixon of New Zealand.
This is amazing, Dwight. How many years have these guys been racing against one another? Tremendous running in this last quarter mile. They could have a shot at the world record. And it's great to see Dixon. This is a guy who's been running distance races for more than 10 years, and he's got the old speed back.
Dixon back from the marathon, trying to challenge Wilson Waigwa in a mile. He will not get him this time. Unofficially, 4:13.94 on the clock, hanging from the ceiling. We'll have to see what it is officially, but that would break the established world record of 4:15.47 held by Dave Stewart of Canada, who was in the field. Wilson Waigwa hanging on to that sprint from about 300 meters out, Craig.
You know, and I thought he did it just the right way. No one knew what Dixon might have. Waigwa went early just to try to get some insurance distance, and he needed every inch of it, as Dixon just showed incredible courage and pluck down the home stretch. Here it is. You weren't quite sure if those long reaching strides of Dixon would catch up to Waigwa. Waigwa was still looking pretty fluid. You know, a year ago, he was tying up towards the end of the races. This year, he seems to have found his kick.
The official results in the Masters